Remo's podcast episode number 7. I'm here with Eerik and me, Remo, and we are going to discuss today an interesting topic which is controversial and also involves a lot of dichotomies. So Eerik, what are we talking about?
For the beginning, Happy New Year, Remo. We haven't met this year. Yes. So it's the 3rd of January. And as you remember, initially we had an idea to talk about the stage of our War of Independence, 1919, 1920, game-changing battles in the city you are living right now, in Tartu, in our university city. But on a New Year's Eve, 31st of December, one of the very important persons in Estonia modern history, former President Arnold Rüütel, passed away, an old man, 96-year-old. And as you already mentioned, a lot of dichotomies, a lot of controversial episodes in his life. And as we know, dichotomy is a part of leadership. And he definitely has been a leader for Estonia in a very controversial and changing time. So I think it would be interesting also for our listeners to take a look into a little bit modern or maybe more fresh part of our history, because we have a time to go back in 100 years next time. But if it's okay with you, probably let's take a look what this person has left in our modern history.
Let's go.
Okay, he has been Estonian president 2001 until 2006. Let's start from somewhere in the middle. And I have a personal privilege that I got my first officer rank from him, because Estonian president is a commander-in-chief of Estonian Defense Forces. I got my first Cross of Merit of Eagle, also for the president, being a young police officer in a drug unit. But it was a years when Estonia history changed forever. We became part of NATO, we became part of European Union. And that definitely secured our future in many ways. But to understand where is a dichotomy or where is a controversial part of his history and his legacy in our Estonian history, we have to go back to the days when he was born. And he was born 1928, so in the first period of Estonian independence, pre-World War II. And in 1940, so when he was 12, Soviet Union occupied Estonia. And he's coming from an island of Saaremaa, our biggest island. And his family were farmers. So he's one of 3 kids, so he's the middle one. And like all the kids in the wartime, of course, he saw many bad things, I think more than we can imagine, and especially in Saaremaa, where fierce battles started in 1944, and he was already 16 at this time. It definitely left some footprint on him. But nothing so controversial in this time, because I think he was one of the thousands and thousands of youngsters had the same destinies, similar fate. And he started in 1946, just 1 year after the war ended. He started his studies in the agricultural field to become a farmer as well. But now, in 1949, he was already involved on certain level in a local, I cannot say maybe politics, but still some kind of a local governance. And of course, 1949 was a very tragic year for Estonia. It was a year of the huge deportation, especially from the farmlands. More than 25,000 of Estonians were deported as a untrusted nationalist element to Siberia, and thousands of them died. So this time he was already 21-year-old. Next year he went to serve his mandatory time as a conscript to the Soviet army, and this time it was 3 years, so he did that. And I beg your pardon, it was 5 years, because he was in the Navy at this time. Yeah, I'm sorry. And when he came back, he continued his career in agriculture. And he was very innovative, as we can read from memoirs about him. He was very innovative. He was very, I can say probably default aggressive, using new techniques in agricultural sector. And after the death of Stalin in 1953, it was kind of a more liberal area started. And he raised in ranks, so to say, and even became a head of Estonian Agricultural Academy, Eesti Maaülikool, which we today call a Life Science Academy. And after that, he got a proposal, very surprisingly, in 1969. He got a proposal to become a second in command of Estonian Soviet Socialist Republic. Wow, and I think that's a place where we have to start and discuss the dichotomy, because definitely this decision that he said yes and went into the Soviet Estonian politics played a crucial, very important role later. And in the beginning, I would like to hear your opinion on this step. Estonia was definitely occupied. Estonia faced 2 mass deportations. 70,000 of our people left to the west, but majority stayed. So what do you think? Was every act of so-called collaboration, or every act when you try to continue your career, does it have to be seen as an act of high treason and collaboration, or it's somehow in human nature that you try to survive and adapt to the situation? Where is adaptation became a betrayal, and where is adaptation start to be self-preservation?
To me, it starts from understanding what's the intent of the person. Because there are spies, right? Now, you can be spy for a country, and you can also be, double spy. I don't know how it's worded. Like, you can
double
act
agent.
as a spy, double agent, yes. So you can act as a spy, but in reality, you are a spy of your own country. Like, you are actually supporting your own country while being a spy for another country. So you're a double agent. So to me, the position to be, deputy or in the socialistic republic in that communist party could be taken in 2 ways. One is that he's a true believer of what that organization is, and true believer that is what a person believes. And then on the other hand, it could also mean that you need to be somewhere where you can actually have influence on decisions. Now, if you position yourself and you be part of a crime gang family, you're actually an FBI agent, but then you infiltrate into the, a crime family in US. So from an outside looker, you can be a bad criminal because you're part of that organization, but nobody knows that you're actually undercover FBI agent. So now the intent in my head, it plays kind of the same way. Nobody actually knows what is your intent, because we can't see in the head. Now my intent to infiltrate this group can be XYZ because I think, based on my analysis of the information, that that's the best way how to influence the future. Now, it could be utilized as an excuse, and it can be sometimes hard to believe, and that's the second thing, but it doesn't really matter what we believe. The most important thing is the intent of the person, so it means that it's not possible to define what was the actual intent, and is it good or bad, because it all depends on what the person wanted to achieve. If he was forward thinking, and if you look at the results of what actually happened, now you can be you can say that, hey, you're right, that's a good story, bro, and that's a good excuse looking at that. But that's the reality, and we will never know unless you had that conversation and actually if you had that discussion with him on those topics. So I would say it depends on your intent, which we never know. Are you playing the double game? And it should be like, because in German army, I'm quite sure that there were some people who were part of the system and they did crimes to kill people or whatever to save a greater good in some aspects. So now it becomes a game of morals, but the only way out to survive in that situation, you had to be part of Nazis, otherwise you are cut off and you have zero influence to change anything. It also comes through from the David, I think the Hackworth's book, while he was really good commander and really liked by the troops in the Vietnam War. So he was like a really huge commander. About Face is the name of the book, which Jaco talks about a lot. And at some point, he started saying that this Vietnam War, it's pointless, there is no right reason for it, and he started to kind of, fight the system. He started to fight the politics. He started to fight everything. And eventually what happened, he got released from his position. So he was either forced to retire or he was just dismissed, which means that now what happened? Now you have zero influence on your troops. Until you play the game within the rules, you can still justify yourself that, hey, I'm going to be part of this so that in the long run, I could actually influence and outlive those guys. Because you can be part of let's say ISIS. But your intent is to change this organization if you get to the leadership position. Are you able to stay true to your true calling and what you initially believed, or the environment will actually change you? I don't know. But that's the philosophy. Those are the thoughts that I have. Like it's somewhere in the realm of having influence. And if your thought process was that, hey, this is the best way, this is the best opportunity, looking at my cards at this poker table at the moment, what are my chances? The best way how to influence the future is to be part of the most strongest party at the moment. And now I'm starting to play the game and start influencing people and doing it in a way where I will not get killed, but I have at least chance to influence. Because if I don't take the job, then I have less chance to influence. So these are my thoughts around this. So depends on intent.
Yeah, very interesting. You actually brought names like a Tony Brasco, which is an FBI agent who worked for years undercover in Italian mafia in New York. And really, thanks to this guy, many of top-level Italian mobsters was taken to the court. Of course, this example about Nazi party high-level generals, yeah, even the head of military intelligence, Admiral Canaris, or von Stauffenberg, Colonel von Stauffenberg, who made a plot against Hitler in 20th July 44, again, top-level Nazi. Schindler, who actually was also a member of a Nazi party, and the only Nazi who is buried on the holy mountain of Jews in Jerusalem, because he saved thousands of them. A very controversial guy, because he actually earned a fortune being a part of the industry system of Nazi Germany. I don't have any realistic research or scientific background to compare late President Rüütel with such examples, but you mentioned one very interesting thing about the intent. And during these days, I had a chance to read some memoirs about Arnold Rüütel, and it was pretty similar because allegedly, I don't know was it true or not, but one of the justifications how he explained to his close friends why he is accepting this high-level position, at least I can do something to prevent more damage. In 1966, he was one of the leaders behind creation of a very innocent Estonian Wildlife Protection Society. even in the Soviet Union, what is wrong with protection of wildlife? That's a very good thing, protect the nature. But behind the scenes, actually, this union or organization became kind of survival mode also to protect our heritage. And the first national park in Lahemaa, even the name national park at this time in Soviet time would be very, very sensitive. But he managed to support it. So in 1971, the first national park in the whole Soviet Union was created exactly with this name. A lot of thanks to Arnold Rüütel. At the same time, he was having speeches about the Great October Revolution and the role of Lenin in our development, and silently letting this silent Russification policy go on. At the same time, his wife, very important lady, Ingrid Rüütel, played a significant role in researches about Estonian national songs and dresses and habits. So, on one hand, preserving all of our national heritage, at the same time being the part of the huge Soviet system, which was doing everything to cut off all of our connections with our historical past. For me, it's the so highest level of dichotomy. So when I start to dig further, he became, in 1983, so then he was a head of Estonian government. By this time, it was a presidium of the Supreme Council of Estonian Soviet Socialist Republic, 1983. At this time, even exposing Estonian symbols, that was a criminal offense. You could realistically go to jail just to wave the Estonian national flag. And he was, I cannot say a ruler of Estonia at this time, but definitely number two most important person, because number one important person was a head of the Communist Party of Estonia Soviet Socialist Republic. And on 16th of November 1988, he was at the same time the person who supported the idea that Estonian laws are above the Soviet ones, which is actually next step to the high treason. And he was called immediately to Moscow, to Mikhail Gorbachev at this time, who was publicly accusing him of going against the Soviet interest, threatening him, but the guy stood behind his decision. Said, no, we are not trying to dissolve Soviet Union, but we just want to guarantee our people better future. Again, it's a kind of a controversial. You are saying that you are not trying to destroy Soviet Union. At the same time, one of the socialist republics within this huge system, you are putting them above. So all of your real acts are going against your words, but you have enough balls to stand against the number one person, the most powerful or second powerful nation in the world, and saying, I don't care. I'm still behind my decision. It was my decision. I will fight for it. Probably if someone with less courage would be there, I think our destiny would be much closer like Moldova. And while driving to have our conversation, I was listening to the radio, and of course Estonian radios are now full of the discussion about the legitimate past or legacy of Arnold Rüütel. And one person at the radio, Kalle Muuli, who was, by the way, also playing important part in the politics, but in a very conservative and the classical nationalist politics at this time, said that actually not all of us could escape to the West. Not all of us could be resistance fighters in the forest. So if we all would be there, it's obvious that no Estonian republic would be restored. But at the same time, many people of his age, born 1928, were in Siberia, were killed in Soviet prisons, were executed, were deported, were suppressed. And how to justify which way was better, which way was more justified, I don't know. Again, sitting here in the warm room and discussing this topic is probably more convenient than having this decision back in 50s and 60s.
I would say listening to this, like that's how I want to perceive it, and that's what I want to get, because that kind of thing gets me motivated, and it makes me like think. That's how I want people to be, and it doesn't really matter what's the truth behind it, but that's how I would like to perceive it. So that would kind of, it has the better chance to enable free society, right, where I live and the ways I live. So what I'm hearing a masterful person who just played the game. And if you're not carefully looking at, because the words that you're not saying, or the words that you're saying are meaningless if you don't act based on that. Like if you think about the company, right? If you have a person who speaks that, hey, it's on me, and he speaks all the things what he's actually not, then what is something what you believe more?
Of course,
you believe actions, the results.
Yes. Yeah,
exactly.
Actions,
so if you don't take any actions, you would lose trust. Now, if a person, on the other hand, speaks bullshit and then acts different way, it would be considered as a person who doesn't live up to his words. But now, if you would be someone who would play the game, you would be deceiving the enemy that you have to be living together. It would be very very stupid to be outspoken and speak all the things that people get mad about. Because it's much more difficult to understand why things happen. Because like I can be telling you that, hey, I'm not pushing the button at all. I'm not pushing the button, and then you go in the behind doors, nobody sees, and you push the button. Nobody knows. Now you can speak. It would be stupid to go and speak to the people that, hey, to the Soviet kind of bloc people the whole time that, hey, this is stupid, this doesn't work, hey, blah, 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 blah. You just be stupid person, like telling what you actually believe. But he was master of playing the game, in my opinion. He was doing what is smart, what would be considered as smart. Because it's a deception. And for example, this is the same kind of thing what we talked about previously. Like, would have it been smart to tell that, hey, we are going to give the rubles to Chechens? No, it wasn't.
Probably not very smart at all.
So it was all about the intent that saved them from kind of coming up from that with the winning result. So to me, what it sounds like is like a really good person understanding his internal values, which he can't speak about. He can't speak it to anyone because he don't know who to trust, because not other people around you can be as value-based as you are. But you know that you have the right goal, which is good for the freedom of you and also freedom around you. Now, you are able to play the game, and you can go and die as being hated and being like attributed, or you have been labeled throughout your lifetime that you are an asshole. But in reality, nobody understands why you were an asshole. Because, for example, if I have, like, let's say in the same manner that if I know that you are not stupid, and if I understand that telling you that you are stupid will make you angry and achieve the goals which are good for you, would it make it right for me to say you that you're stupid? Because if I tell you stupid, you think that, hey, I'm an arrogant prick, and what the hell do I know? I will prove you wrong. I'm just pushing a button which actually will make you achieve your goals. Now, after you have achieved your goals, I can come to you and say, hey, actually, do you know why I really told you that you're stupid? Because I knew that that's going to work and help you and support you to achieve that goal. Now, it was a dangerous strategy and it usually doesn't work, but I believe that this is going to work on you. And if you truly believe that that was the intent and that was his method of delivering you the motivation to make you achieve your goal, it worked. So But you, as a person, if you don't have that conversation about why I did why I did and why I said things why I said, you can actually never know. And you can contribute to me at Remo died and he's an asshole because that's how he acted towards me. As long as you don't understand the deeper intent of a person, you really can't know what's up. That's the way how spy world works. Like, there is an agent, you don't know what's the actual motive of that person until you realize, oh, that's why he asked me to print out these papers. Oh, that's why he wanted to. That's why he bought me beer, so that I want to buy him a beer, so that he would be thinking that I owe him something. So incremental steps towards me being a traitor towards my country. So that's the underlying thing, which we can never know about anyone in reality.
But at the same time, we value situation, we value leaders who are saying what they believe, who are leading the people towards their ultimate goal, and whose actions are according to their beliefs. That's the ideal world. And of course, I understand that Arnold Rüütel didn't have a chance to live in the ideal world. That's true. The World War II, Soviet occupation, everything else put him into the situation where he had only bad choices, worse choices, and the worst. So he started to look, and which is also, again, it's a human nature. It's how to take a way out. But coming to his personality back, so in 1988, as I said, in the beginning it was still dangerous and forbidden even to wave Estonian flags, use Estonian symbols. A year later, 24th of February 1989, so Soviet Union was still existing for the next 2 years. The national flag was taken up on the Toompea hill, where is our parliament is today, and to the main tower, tall Herman, big Herman, which wouldn't be even possible to think about a year before. And again, number 2 in the Soviet chain of command, not even Mr. President, but Comrade Arnold Rüütel, was behind this idea, was supporting this idea, was playing the game where he managed with very clever diplomacy to bring Vaino Väljas, the same type of man, who was actually the head of a Soviet diplomatic mission to Nicaragua and Venezuela, number 1 Soviet diplomat, but Estonian by nationality, bring him back to Tallinn, and he became a head of Estonian Communist Party. So they both started to turn the Soviet system upside down from inside, which sounds, I don't know, it's not even dichotomy. It sounds like it just cannot be true, but after 2 years, Soviet Union were collapsed. Of course, we cannot say that it was the fault or achievement only of those 2 people. No, definitely it was achievement of Estonian nation because nation supported it. But the courage, I can't even imagine, because in 1991, when Soviet Union tried to turn the history clock back, and the TV tower was attacked in Vilnius, Ministry of Interior was attacked in Riga, 13 people died in Vilnius, 5 people died in Riga. It was very obvious that something will happen in Tallinn in the same January 1991. And remember, Soviet Union was still existing. He made a step which again wouldn't be possible to imagine today. He turned to Boris Yeltsin, who was the president of Soviet Russia at this time, but not the Soviet Union. Yes, the same Yeltsin who later didn't like us at all, and invited him to Tallinn. And Soviet Russia was so pleased, because of Yeltsin liked Rüütel, that Soviet Russia declared we need to support Estonians in the independence fight. Again, to achieve something like this, the 2 top communists, one is a top communist of Russia, the other one is a top communist of Estonia, agree between each other that Russia will start to support Estonia to break away from Soviet Union. No? I looked many times in some history books, but at least in the recent history, I couldn't find any example like this. What kind of diplomatic skills, communication skills? Definitely, it goes to the first law of combat, building relations, cover and move. Because Yeltsin definitely needed some cover in the Soviet Union against Gorbachev, because his ego was bigger than Gorbachev once, and Rüütel provided it. And Rüütel managed to bring other Soviet republics, Latvia and Lithuania, hey, let's start to put the Baltic support for Yeltsin. No? I know. What are your initial thoughts at how it's possible that you change your mind, say, okay, Russia has been historically our worst enemy. I will call the top commander of the Soviet Russian Communist Party and turn him into the supporter of Estonian independence.
Mm-hmm. So I would say, like, it happened to be that, like, what is more powerful? What we say is, we're able to say that what is more powerful than the formal chain of command usually is the informal like relationships are stronger than chain of command. That's the saying. Relationships are stronger than the formal chain of command. So while it happens that sometimes you have a really good relationships with the chain of command, that could be the result, because now you don't have to lead up the chain of command, what he kind of did. But what he was able to do is that he utilized the first law of combat and he hit the first pillar. So if you need to have influence, first, be the best performer in the company.
What do you mean by that, Remo?
So if he was so successful in the Soviet mentality, he became the best worker. Like if Estonia was a sales company, he became the best sales guy of the socialism or whatever. Like,
that's
he's on
true.
that position.
Yeah.
Now, who has the most influence in the company? Most likely people who have done results, who have showed, who have gained respect, who have listened what the big boss want, who have gained their trust. Now, as you are their biggest performer, now you have more influence. Now, how do you utilize that influence? What he decided to do is he saw that, hey, it would be much more useful for my sales team to have, I don't know, big 3 Baltic countries united together and do whatever. So that's the kind of influence that he saw that could provide him better possibility or whatever the resource need to accomplish the mission. Now, that could be very well utilized the same way. Like if you are part of a company and you really don't believe the vision of your commander, but you see some parts which are really good and you think that the only reasons why that leader doesn't really is not influenced by me is that I haven't built a good enough relationship or trust with them. Now, if I ask few questions, it may turn out that actually this leader will support also my initiative. And in reality, he had been able to build respect. He knew what to do. He had listened. He gained trust. And then obviously, if you have trust, you are able to influence back. You let yourself be influenced first. And then he had opportunity to influence Russia and plant the seed into the head of Soviet
Socialist Federation Republic,
which eventually turned into a thing where that was their own plan. So he sold them his plan and he planted the seed, which became their plan. And that's what you want. That's how you lead up the chain of command. Like, you want the best. It means that the depends on what's his vision, what's his mission, and how is he using the card that he has. And he took ownership of the situation and he lead up the chain of command in the right way. He planted the seed. He made the Russia. What was it? What was it? Sorry.
Russian Socialist Federative Soviet Republic, RSFSR.
Exactly
RSFSR. RSFSR.
All right.
Romeo Sierra Foxtrot Sierra Romeo.
So RSFSR bought in to the seed, and it became their plan.
Yes, Yeltsin was definitely huge egomaniac, and he loved. It was his plan to support Estonia, not Arnold Rüütel's plan. I agree.
So Arnold did excellent job of leading up the chain of command to actually achieve the intent what he wished.
But so, at this same
perfect execution. Yeah. Perfect execution. Like, because what you could, like, if we, the only way how to figure it out is that if we had a simulator machine or something like that, and we put this situation into a simulator machine and run it through 1,000 times, then you could get a percentage. But in life, we only get one chance. So only thing what we have is this one line based on information what we have available. And now looking at this, you can interpret in whatever ways you want, because in reality, you don't have the data, you don't have the simulations to repeat this situation and see what could be some of the other outcomes. And now if out of 1,000 times, 950 times, this would be the same result, you would understand his intent. If this was happened by accident, by randomness, and he just utilized what's best for him, what's best for his family, then most likely, I don't know, if Soviet Union didn't collapse, then maybe something else would happen and he would be, I don't know, head of Baltics and then head of Soviet Union. I don't know what was his ambitions. So, but as it only happened once, we only have this information, and based on interpretation, it's just about, do I interpret this information positively or negatively? And I will just take this and use this, that he did an excellent job of following the laws of combat in that sense, and he just led up the chain of command to come up with his intent, and he succeeded perfectly.
Yes, and he was also following the second law of combat, because he was very simple, and also later being a president in 2001, 2006, why he was very much loved, especially in the countryside, not only because of his agricultural background, which definitely played significant role, but also that his messages were very simple. If our first president after World War II, Lennart Meri, he was, gift by God that we had him at the right time, he managed to bring us back to the world map. So he was definitely number one in our diplomacy, speaking multiple languages, having a huge cultural, tons of cultural blast, but was probably not so simple talking to the common peasant. And Arnold Rüütel was something vice versa, like a balancing the thing. And I jump a little bit forward. When we had our first presidential elections after the Soviet occupation in 1992, Arnold Rüütel was also running. And if that would be the public voting, he would probably win, because he was supported, not 51%, but definitely more popular candidate than Taagepera or the same Lennart Meri. But the president was elected by the parliament. And the parliament was, of course, full of young, angry men, which was very good, because we need to get rid of the Soviet system. And they, of course, elected Lennart Meri as a symbol of all of this resistance. The guy who was sent with his family to Siberia, who came back, etc., etc. And he served 2 terms for 10 years. So, 9 years, sorry. So, in 2001, when it was the next election, probably these turbulent times made people a little bit tired. So you can not only run and run and run up to the full speed. And I think as a stabilization from 2001 to 2006, Arnold Rüütel was excellent choice. Excellent. And before we go back to his Soviet time achievement, the other controversial topic, as at least many analysts and politology scientists in Estonia say, Estonia surprisingly in 2003, when we had referendum, the voting referendum about joining European Union, it was not so black and white. Many people, especially in the countryside, were afraid, hey, wait a minute, would it be like a next Soviet Union? Would it be again a lot of rules and bureaucracy? And it was not a high chance, but it was a chance that Estonia will vote no. Especially Norway has said no to European Union. And I cannot even imagine what our politics would be if Estonia would not be a part of European Union. And for us, European Union was somehow, not officially, but unofficially related also to the NATO issue. So without being a member of European Union, I don't think we would ever be a member of NATO. And Arnold Rüütel, using his influence over these rural areas, made very clear statements that is in the interest of Estonian nation to choose this path. And Estonia, more than 60% of Estonian population said, yes, we are joining European Union. So 1st of May 2004, Estonia became a member of European Union. And even opponents of Arnold Rüütel, who don't like his Soviet past at all, say, hey, he was still a top communist, what the hell you're talking about? They have to admit, thanks to this support, we have what we have today. So the person who was, at least by default, had to fight against evil Western Europe, used all of his credibility 10 years later, say, guys, or 15 years later, guys, we need to go and support because it's a once in a lifetime chance. And he managed to do it. So how much courage does it need to say, yes, I was probably doing a lot of not very honorable things in my life, but now I understand that it's not about me, it's not about my reputation, it's about destiny of my nation. I need to say clearly. He could also play in game. I don't make a clear stance because I'm a president. Everyone has a free option. I would, sustain from saying anything. But he understood the highest why, that there will be not another chance. Nobody is asking us many times. It's our desire to go there. And he made it very clearly. Yes, I will use my presidential position. I will use my influence, not only official, but also unofficial influence, to turn Estonian history there. And he managed. Very brave, very controversial. But from your opinion, where it goes the line that you as a president have to be so neutral as possible at not saying anything about the internal politics, but at the same time, you as a top leader of the nation understand that you also have a kind of a responsibility. So where is the line? To be like a neutral or more Catholic than a pope, or you understand the highest why and you actually use your credibility, which some of your opponents can blame you later?
So when can you be neutral and when you have to make a decision? Like, if you're going to be neutral forever, then you are letting the environment control you. If you want to take matters in your own hands, then you have to take a risk and either say yes or no, because you can always be maybe. Now, in certain times, it will be smart to say maybe or be in the middle, depending on the situation. But you can't, most likely, you can't do it forever. You have to make a stance at some point. So it all depends on the intent, what he was considering. And that's something that can never be known for any president, unless they will actually speak out loud what is their decision-making process and what they considered. And even then, it can be deceived something. So what's the explanation of why I am neutral? Sometimes it is useful to say it out loud. And it all is based on your analysis of what is the actual courses of action, what is the actual consequences of my words if I say X and Y. So to me, it's all like understanding what's the hidden seeds behind the words. Because if you need to win time, you say, hey, I haven't come up to the decision. I haven't done a decision. And now if you do it for too long, you lose credibility, people get mad. But if you do it in the right way, it would be considered good thing, because you actually were not impulsively saying yes or no, but you actually took time to consider. Now it's all connected with the other loop. Observe, orient, decide, act. How long do you need to make a good decision? In military, in defense battles, you have a battle kind of function or format where the only intent of your actions is to delay the enemy. That's what you do. We have your battalion, your job is to delay enemies' forward movement, because then it provides us enough time to, I don't know, gather up or do a frontal assault or do a flanking maneuver or do whatever. So you shouldn't always be attacking. You shouldn't always be defending. And you can't always be neutral. If you're neutral constantly, then you are giving opportunities for others to influence. Now, if you want to have a say, you have to choose a team, so to say. And now at some points there is good things of choosing one team, then there is another good time for that you should choose the other team. So it's all pretty complicated, and to me, it all, again, from talking about it, thinking about it, it just comes down to intent. Because what is the difference between manipulation and leadership?
In my understanding, leader has to be sincere. Manipulative person, and manipulation, at least in Estonian language, manipuleerimine, has a very negative feeling, negative taste behind this word. So manipulation is using your influence for your own needs, for your own gain, while leadership, at least in my idealistic understanding, it's a leading people towards something bigger goal, which bringing joy, happiness, prosperity, and all the good things for the wider population.
So the difference is the intent. The method is the same. Like, you want to influence people. Now, if you figure out how to influence people, the only thing that, hey, am I influencing other people to gain everything for me? Now, that would be considered manipulation. And leadership would be considered as doing the same, influencing people to make their life better. So it would be, one is like selfish, another thing is selfless. Leadership seems to be selfless. Manipulation is all about me trying to achieve my goals. And now the controversial part, or the dichotomy, or whatever the thing it is, or the kind of counterintuitive thing about it, is that if you help others to achieve their goals, you will also achieve their goal. And that's kind of the belief system difference. Because if I believe by leading others, I'm helping other people to achieve their goals, in return, even though I'm not focusing on achieving my goals, I will achieve my goals because other people will start thinking the same way. And eventually that's the way how to win as a team. If I'm providing for others, so that would be the influence, the example, which will make them provide also for me. Because they are not also thinking about themselves. They're also not manipulating. Now, in a world where we live, there are always people who are deceiving and thinking about themselves. Now, that's not the vision, or that's not your mission. That's not the way how you have to act, because there is more people in my belief system who actually want good than bad. And that's kind of the alignment system where you have to be playing around to figure out those answers, because the tools will still be the same. To dig a hole, you use a freaking, what is it?
Shovel.
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 Now, what's the intent of using? I can use it to kill person or dig a hole. But it's not about the tool. It's about how you use the tool for what reason. And that kind of is the same thing with leadership. Like, how do you use those tools? The tool works also. The decentralized command or a mission command, it also works for Germans. They were doing the blitzkrieg. It just, their intent was maybe not as good. It was good for Hitler, but the method he used, they were effective. The way they built up their youth, the way they prepared for the war, the way they maneuvered their vehicles, the way they built up their army, it was effective. Intent wasn't aligned with what we want from this world, but the methods were really effective. So it's all comes down to the intent to me.
Of course, about this military leadership, this leader principle or principle that you have to be led by the highest understanding of mission. It already started in Prussian army more than 100 years before Hitler. But I agree, yes, if you're understanding a mission, if you have clever soldiers, clever troops, and they are trained and well disciplined, that's definitely brings you a better result. But you mentioned the shovel, and Arnold Rüütel, Soviet Union shovel in this period, late 80s, has actually a strong connection, because in Georgia were also this massive demonstration in support of democracy, and people came on streets. In the same year where we here started our singing revolutions, in Georgia, Soviet Union did send internal troops with small shovels, which actually and killed dozens of people on the street. So it was possibility that all our actions will turn into bloodshed. But Rüütel, at least in his later speeches, he said that one of his main goals were to achieve our supreme goal, restore our independence in a peaceful way, not losing a people, which was actually it was not very likely, because what happened in Lithuania, Latvia, Armenia, Azerbaijan, Georgia, it was bloody. The war with the insurgents in Dniester region in Moldova, it was all going on, but we managed to avoid. And I think now when he passed away, that many of our jokes about how slow he was and etc., I have to say, probably they are not so justified, because we start to value people quite often when they have left. Would it really be better than we would have like hundreds of graves of the martyrs? I don't know. But he had his goal to achieve peacefully the main idea. And he was successful. So even when in August 1991, the coup d'etat, or this overthrowing the Gorbachev government, happened in Moscow, he managed, because he already built relations half a year before with Yeltsin, that the Russian Federation, before the Soviet Union collapsed, Russian Federation recognized our independence. And Gorbachev was under such a big pressure, because, hey, wait a minute, the biggest republic in Soviet Union already recognized. What's the use of Soviet Union? And Soviet Union collapsed 6 months later. Yes, Iceland was the first small country who recognized our independence in August, but Russian Federation was the second. And only after this decision, all big countries started to recognize us. France, United Kingdom, United States, of course, they all recognized our existence, but diplomatic relations were not restored before that. So again, Arnold Rüütel, couple of days after Estonia redeclared independence, restoration of independence, he already managed, by using cover and move, by using a building relations principle, that Russian Federation said, yes, we recognize our independence, which was a kind of a miracle. And I think the biggest job or biggest achievement probably, that he was not talking actually a lot about how big his role was in restoring of independence. I'm now thinking that I haven't read any of his memoirs where he is describing, hey, I made this and this and this. It's actually other people talking about him. Wow, that's the first time I think, yes, because we can read Mart Laar memoir, Edgar Savisaar memoir, many other people, but we don't have actually memoirs of Arnold Rüütel. Wow.
And I would say that he's the man, because he decided everyone, like that's what does it show? It shows humility. That's the most.
Wait a minute. Humility. But at the same time, you need to have ego, because otherwise you cannot raise in the ranks of chain of command.
Sure, but he didn't show it. He let other people around him make the decision. So he played the game perfectly again. Like he did what we, or at least he did what I would perceive or admire as the greatest leaders can do. They never praise themselves. He is a quiet servant, and even though he understands that he had this role, he played a huge role in making the decision. He made and supported a lot of those initiatives. He never takes credit. That's the best way of doing it. Like these are the people who I admire the most throughout my service. Like, it's clear that in some of those actions what we were part of, it's clear that the results were brought by that man's action and his influence. And he never says it out loud because he doesn't have to. Everyone knows without saying it. And our ego wants to say it out loud, hey, I did this, I did that, look at me. But he is man enough, strong enough to not let himself be influenced by human urges to get the praise, putting himself out there. Now, is it intentional? Maybe there is something that he doesn't want to share because it will come out as something he doesn't want us to know, or people to know, or people to perceive. And being silent, it always leaves this perception that you never know. That's why the silent leader is a term as well. Like, what kind of leaders you want? You want to have silent leaders who are listening, who are understanding, and then they just say 2 words and they don't have to say anything more. Because they were listening, they understand the situation, and they let the team speak because it has to be their plan anyways. So looking at this perspective, because I didn't know much about Arnold's past at all. So this is kind of the first time I'm like listening to this. And through this interpretation of this information, that's how I choose to see this based on what I think good leadership is. And to me, that he now, and previously in my book, he really wasn't in. He didn't have a rank in who I think were great leaders. Based on this information, based on this conversation, I would say that, I mean, he's the man. That's how leaders should be.
Yeah, even if I think about his stabilization role between Estonian Congress, which was very on the hard stance that Estonian Republic should be restored like it was in 1940, which of course I support legally this idea, and between the Supreme Council of Estonian Soviet Socialist Republic that, hey, let's break away from Soviet Union, he managed silently to bring it together. Even we all know that, okay, Edgar Savisaar, our leader of National Front and the father of singing revolution, boom, that's one. And maybe those other people from Estonian Congress side, Mart Laar, Tunne Kelamit, etc. But Rüütel was always somewhere there, trying to balance between them, but never presented him as a liberator of Estonia. So when Soviet troops during this overthrow of Gorbachev in 1991 in August, they captured our TV towers. They took our TV tower. And when in 2 days this siege came to its end, Arnold Rüütel didn't go there. Edgar Savisaar was first going with the flashing blue lights on, presenting the nation, hey, I liberated our guys, now Russian troops are leaving, Soviet troops are leaving the TV tower. Arnold Rüütel was still staying in the official residence, doing his job from behind. And never said that, hey, I managed. But actually, he was the guy, because the head of the Soviet troops, the general lieutenant who was a commander of Soviet troops, came to his Kadriorg presidential castle and said, hey, I take over the power. Now I am supreme leader here. And it was not obvious who will be in charge in Moscow, because that was 3 very turbulent days. And Rüütel listened to him, said, I still remain on my post. Please leave the office and we will talk with you later. He's not presenting it much, but this lieutenant general left actually showing his weakness, because he was never prepared to this. And other people took a credit about restoring independence, being on TV shows, signing the papers. Rüütel, just with this silent face, was sitting in the second row in the parliament. So you say that even in the turbulent times, it's important that leader is not speaking out loud, or sometimes it is just needed. Like Lennart Meri in the hard times said, hey, now we have a window of opportunity. Now we need to go. So which type of... we cannot say, or probably I cannot see that it's 100% black and white, that you have only silent leaders or you have only big orators having a great speeches. So is it also needed a balance depending on the situation, or what?
Yeah, I think it is. It's based on the assessment of you. Like, if you see that there are strong leaders who are capable of accomplishing what I would go and accomplish, then that's pointless of going there and replacing them. Like, for example, if you see that in your team you have a perfect person who has a capability to be able to sell. Now you know it that, hey, I'm really good at sales as well, but he's able to do the same job, at least on the same level, and maybe even go beyond. And even if it doesn't go beyond, at least he's able to accomplish the same mission. So why would I go there and take away his job so that he would have to go and start thinking what he needs to do now? If he has figured out that these resources can work itself out, then I'm not going to put any effort and take it away, even though I would be able to accomplish the task at the same level or maybe a little bit better. So now I had that information, now I had the possibility to figure out, okay, what can I do now? What is the actual best use of my resources from team's perspective? And I will go and do what other people are not doing, because if that thing is already taken care of by that dude and that dude and that dude, good. I'm just only looking how they are doing. And I will not put my nose into it because I think that their intentions are good, they're moving in the right direction. I will not touch that because it seems to be working. It seems to be going to the right direction. What I can do now is focus on something which I can influence and where my resources are needed the most. So again, makes sense. Brilliant moves based on the philosophy that we teach. Because to play chess, you have to have all the buttons on the chess table. Now, you just have to know how to use those buttons. And who is more powerful? The king or the queen or the things, or the person playing? The credit goes to the queen. Like, if you think about, for example, if that's the troops, if you start to visualize that the chessboard is the world where we live in, those are the troops what we have, then you are the queens and all the buttons that you have there, they have different functions. Now you are the one who is going to sacrifice this function, you're going to sacrifice this function. The intent of those each pieces is there. It's already there. It's a closed game, closed rules. But now you, like, where do you want to be? Do you want, like, because the queen gets some credit of being a queen on the game because he has the possibility, and he's the, like, he made the last move, and because of that last move, the troops won if they were alive. But in reality, you were the game maker. And if you are the game maker, you are on a different level. You're pulling strings. And that seems to be the thing what he did. He didn't put his nose where things worked. He concentrated, he prioritized and execute because he understood the why. He didn't want any credit. He didn't need to be the person who was reported in the news that, hey, I did this, I did that. No, he didn't need it. He saw his team is winning. I'm laying back. I'm doing my thing where I can be the most effective for the team. Another admirable thing, if you at least think it that way.
But now when we think that how turbulent, how controversial the situation has to be, the top-level communist, one of the 15 leaders of the Soviet republics, becoming a head of a NATO nation where president is actually a supreme commander of this nation's army, of these defense forces. So if someone would have told it in 1981 or 1984, because in 1984 he was already number 2 in a Soviet system in Estonia, and 20 years later he was a president of a nation, leading the same nation into the NATO bloc, which by default for decades had to be, at least in rhetorics, the biggest enemy. Wow, it is something. I don't think we ever agree as a nation about his legacy 100%, and I think it's actually correct, because there is very seldom you have like a black and white. But if you have your heart in the right place and you understand the biggest why, I think it's possible to do good, even if you have probably have chosen at least questionable path in beginning. But the problem is, if you are not sincere in your actions and your ideas, sincere to yourself, if you are only adapting yourself to situation, losing some kind of beliefs, all of beliefs, then it's problematic.
I think like every person in a way is an agent of what's in their head.
Sure.
And you are playing a game and against other agents. Because if you have a company, that could be a thought, well, that's the ideology in one organization. Now you come in as a spy of your own thoughts, because not everyone knows what is your actual motivation 100% all the time. So it's the same kind of dynamics. You can breach the same lessons, the same principles into everything. And I don't know, to read the story, I mean, if presented in a way how I have interpreted and putting it could be a movie. Wow. It can be a movie even if without this concept, like the outcome of the movie, the message of the movie, just dependent on what's the message of the movie. Do this movie wants to inspire people? Does this movie want to showcase how things are wrong? What's the intent of the movie? What is the main message that you want to give? It could be a awesome movie that could inspire countries in the situation, that could inspire mass movements if done in the right way. So it could change cultures, it could change world, it could change a lot of things if that would be put in a movie based on this dude. And I mean, even for example, if he came out and now 1 month from now, there comes out his secret memoir, which he only wanted to release after he died, and that's what it says, I won't be, that would be even better movie of the actual true leader, like who he was. So
not only combat ready publishing, but combat ready film production should be in place, and because we have already had at least 7 episodes for a fantastic TV serial, Leadership History. And I totally agree. About 96 years what this man has lived, it's almost a century. So this century showed him everything from Estonian agricultural society in a pre-war republic, 2 different occupations, then the 3rd Soviet occupation, the 2nd one. He's choosing, standing on the crossroad, okay, which way to go. Then choosing his really hobby, which was definitely agriculture, but going into the politics, leading his nation maybe to correct his mistakes. We don't know what he felt inside. Becoming a president of this nation and peacefully resigning and not putting him on this top of the monument. Still having enough humility, not saying, hey, I was the only one who actually managed to collapse Soviet Union without single shot, without single victim. None of the other Soviet republics managed to do that. He never said it was my credit. He said we were lucky enough and wise enough to avoid this scenario. I never read any interview when he said that was my. It was definitely his influence, but he never said it out loud.
Which is the admirable thing. And that's why all the conspiracy theories are so appealing and so fun, because they're stories that we create, and it's just so matter of how do you translate that into the story? What's the intention behind this? Because we could talk about the same stuff and just, if like we were a political whatever
opponents,
you and me were in, and or we were in the same party, we could spin this story in whatever ways we want.
Yeah, sure.
And then you know what's the intent behind it, and that's the reason why I do it, kind of like. And that's why these things are fascinating. So what's the main lessons learned for you from this, and what could be transferred into our lives, into business, into living?
For me, this his life story is example of dichotomy. I've never seen bigger dichotomy. And stay humble. Really, in his situation, even if I do not agree with all his choices, for me, the biggest outcome, stay humble. You can be a great leader without saying it out loud. And that's, I have a long way to learn. And for you?
Yeah, I would say that the biggest takeaway is it's like reassuring or confirming the things I already believe in, and just recognizing that those people exist. And even if it's a dream and if it's not the reality, it's a good way of thinking. And that it just again proves the point of playing the game. Just have to play the game. And he did a great job. 96 years old. He's seen everything. He's been on all the different sides. And the outcomes are what matter. And staying humble is the most admirable thing that a leader can do. Yeah, it's... I would like to see the movie. And I think that's how you should lead everything. Your life, your community, your family. I mean... it really truly applies, and truly awesome that people like that have been part of Estonian story. And I mean, it connects very well with what we do here in Combat Ready and what we do in general. So that's what it's all about. And if that's something what you like and what you think you want to do as well, then contact us, I would say, and let's do it together, because that's what it's all about. And I think not knowing what we're going to talk about today, and that's where we ended up with, I mean, it's just brilliant. And I think really, really, really inspiring person. So rest in peace, Arnold. Thank you for your service.
Rest in peace, Mr. President, and see you soon, Remo.
Take care.
Bye.